So if I were to describe Ellie's personality, I think one of the first things that once you get to know Ellie, you realize is that she has a wicked sense of humor. She also is someone who is incredibly well-read. She loves stories. She said, I say she's a warrior.
My name is Ellie Morgan. I am legally blind. When people say things like, you know, you inspire me, it's not always a compliment because I'm just doing what everybody else is doing.
We get tired of being blind because it's so hard sometimes, and you say, okay, why me? Why I have to make everything different from the rest of people? Why everything for me is more complicated? Why I have to spend more time reading, more time writing, more time doing many things?
As a blind person, if it takes you 1 hour, it takes me 5. Everything is a 1 to 5 relationship.
Right now, I would like to become a professor of English literature with a focus on the humanitarian side of it. Everyone's telling me that it's, you know, it's too hard for me. Then, you know, sometimes I start to think, like, what if it is? And then I snap myself out of it and I, you know, get back to it.
I had to work so hard to get my law degree and pass the bar that I lived every day to the absolute fullest.
For the sighted world, the idea that you could be a functional human being and not see is sort of outlandish.
I work with ceramics, so I make things out of clay. I do yoga sometimes. I'm trying to work on getting more into that type of thing. I'm not very good at exercising, which I need to fix. I love sweets. I have a huge sweet tooth. Everyone who has known me a long time will know that dessert is one of my favorite things. I'm a twin. I have a twin sister named Anna, who goes to Grand Valley, and a younger brother named Jacob, who is a freshman in high school. And all 3 of us were born on the same day. I had a lot of my materials made into Braille throughout most of my elementary, middle, and high school educations. In the beginning, I really didn't like reading. I thought that it was hard, it was too much work, I didn't want to do it. I couldn't understand the idea of reading for fun because it was just so much work. Now I want to become an English professor. Going to college, I was really nervous, mostly initially about being away from home and not knowing, you know, anybody here or where I was going or how I was going to get to classes or how I was going to get materials or how I was going to, you know, fit in and how I was going to talk to my professors. And how was I going to manage the cafeterias or the, you know, just walking around by myself? How was I going to do any of that? I would say were my biggest concern. She was very sad that we were going because both my sister and I were going at the same time. And so it was a lot of, please don't leave me, type of thing. Because we were her, you know, her first kids and we're leaving the nest. But I mean, I think she was excited, but I think she was also sad that I was leaving. I have to think about, will the materials in this class be accessible to me? Will I be able to read this book that's assigned? Is it available in a format that I can use, or is it just a paperback? How am I going to look at this picture? What am I going to do to understand this graph without actually seeing it? How am I going to talk to my professors about accommodations? Where can I fit in class so that when I leave, I know where I'm going? It was billed to me as one of the best schools for people with disabilities to go to, because the accessibility here was phenomenal. And so far, I would agree. I think that's been the case. I think the RCPD has been really great. All I have to do is send them materials that I need, and then they will get right back to me.
At MSU, we talk about Spartan's will, and I think that plays so well into the model of ability and opportunity we're trying to develop here. And I've always said, who will help people move beyond expectations? And I think that's what a Michigan State University and a resource center for persons with disabilities and all the people who work in this field are able to do.
After we meet with the student and decide what are the most reasonable accommodations for that student, the visa puts those in writing.
If I'm teaching a large class, I have to be concerned about delivering education to all of them. I can't let 98% of the students suffer in order to spend time accommodating 2% of the students. It becomes a challenge because last fall, for example, I had a student who was supposed to get 25% extra time for an exam. I had two students that were supposed to get 50% extra time for their exam. And I had one student that was supposed to get 75% extra time for their exam. I can't have the classroom for an extra 50 or 75% of the time. It really is a logistical problem.
Part of me was, oh, well, I've never actually had a student who can't see in class before, so I thought about what the challenges that might bring in a foreign language classroom, because I like to use a lot of images to help out when students maybe don't know a word, they can rely on the image, and I knew that she couldn't do that. So I try to make sure that anything that you can't just verbally state, or that isn't verbally stated, that I don't just leave something on the board without her knowing what's being put there, what's on the screen. So in my class we use Google Classroom a lot, which has worked really well, except that we found that Google apparently is not a very accessible platform. So one thing that has been an easy adjustment to make is, instead of submitting her assignments there, she just emails them to me. That's the important part, is being flexible with accommodations and doing what you can to help the student out, because you really want them to have the best experience in the class and to be able to learn.
They are really committed to helping people with disabilities, and I mean, sometimes there's a typo here and there, but like, other than that, you know, I can't really complain. Most of the work they've sent me back, it's all really comprehensive, and they do a really good job of checking in and making sure that you are understanding what's going on in your classes, and they'll help you schedule. They have people that are willing to work with me on like tutoring. For example, last year I had math tutoring from them. And this year I have Spanish. They have people who can help you with technology if it goes wrong, people who can get books made into an accessible format for you if you can't find one. So I think it's a great organization. My parents are really incredible parents. They have been some of my biggest supporters. They have never told me that I can't do anything, except, you know, drive a car. They've sort of encouraged me to have a positive outlook on life, and to sort of think beyond my disability, and they really have been incredibly supportive of my decisions, and they've been very helpful when it comes to helping me advocate for myself and my needs, and making sure that I have everything that I need to succeed. A big obstacle in the way of my goals is society's perception that I can't do things. So I'm sort of perceived as, you know, someone who is there to be an inspiration, but, you know, I'm not really expected to go super far in life. I'm blind, so therefore I'm not expected to achieve my goals because the perception is that I'm gonna need more help than I can give, so it's not worth it to hire me.
How on earth would a person be able to execute any of the skills that are necessary, in this case to be a college professor? Ellie has an answer for a lot of those questions. If she has set her sight on something, she will figure out how to get it done. But she definitely has to be incredibly proactive in sort of addressing and recognizing that it is actually incumbent on her to make other people feel at ease, which is unfortunate, but that's just the reality that she faces.
I am aware that the system is definitely in my favor, so I don't want to say if you work hard you'll get up there, because I know that that's not the case for everybody. But I think that believing in yourself in spite of what society tells you is a really good step towards sort of becoming your own person beyond your disability. Grad school. I have to go to grad school. I have to pay for grad school. So that's the first hurdle we gotta jump through. But more importantly, I think that it's going to be pretty difficult for me as a blind person to get employment without help and on my own merits, because people see me and assume that I can't do things. And so I think a challenge is going to be having to prove myself, and having to make it clear to people that I am worthy of teaching people, despite, you know, maybe not being able to see people or students raising their hands, or having all of my assignments turned in online, or things like that, so that I can grade them. And I think the hardest part is getting people to understand that I am capable of achieving this goal, and that I am capable of working these types of jobs. On top of that, work is just difficult, because, you know, you have to have a lot of drive to do anything, and especially when the odds are stacked against you. You have to work twice as hard to get places that other people would get. much easier. And then in addition, the acceptance rate is pretty low, so you have to work even harder as a result.